Thank you for joining us. It's Infowars Nightly News. It is Wednesday, October 26, 2011. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny in the second half of the transmission will break down a global push to forcibly inoculate through fraud, saying it's the law, not just little girls with the dangerous Merck Gardasil HPV vaccine, but now little boys. We're going to look at the dropping fertility and pregnancy rate across the world and expose the depopulation agenda that is afoot here. We also are going to look at the emergency alert system now that some of the big national radio hosts are talking about it, where the federal government for the first time is going to commandeer radio and TV stations and break in next month with a FEMA takeover test of the media. Something that Stalin and Hitler would have dreamed of. That is coming up as well. But first, let's get into a lengthy stack of incredible news and information. Well, they claim they've got a tentative deal, but they're trying to keep the details secret from the German parliament, the Greek parliament, and others. But it has now been released that it's around a €1 trillion, that's about $1.3 trillion rescue fund. And buried in the details in the German debate was that it is the, quote, insurance for German pension funds, or the actual deposits or the insurance on those deposits of the German taxpayers. And they're selling this whole thing like Greece did this. This is derivatives and bad counterfeit investments of private investors being made good at the expense of taxpayers, just like our banker bailout. More than half of that went to Europe as well. There's another report here out of CNBC. Europe zone to quadruple bailout fund, sources are reporting. So over $1 trillion and right at €1 trillion. And of course, it creates a European superstate. Under this deal, the member states waive their rights into this new Bank of the World, this global governance situation that the Pope, his council called for 2 days ago. A global government, that's a quote, global government and a world currency, basically controlled by this new Bank of the World. So this is financial domination. And I noticed the London Telegraph, they had today a big live feed with what was being debated in the parliaments. And they had the, quote, liberals of Germany, there's a couple parties that represent the liberals, saying you're racist if you don't support the banker takeover, and just saying it's racist. So trendies don't want to be racist. They didn't say why it's racist, just racist. Kind of like slit your wrist or you're racist. Jump off a cliff or you're racist. It's just oh no, I have hospitality. I don't hate anybody. Let foreign bankers take me over and take my pension fund. They're like, good. You are now a trendy and can be trusted. By the way, you think I'm joking? Give me a document cam shot of this. Folks won't believe it. It was at 15:35 Greenwich Mean Time. That's Greenwich military time. And it said that the EU is seen to be one of the left versus right domestic politics. Author and left-wing thinker Owen Jones writes a political blog, Labor, lists that as stands, and then it goes into debates in the German parliament. The EU is seen as the perennial obsession of the Tory right-wing fringes, the sort of issue that excites only bigoted. The Daily Mail reading Little Englanders. So, and again, it goes through here. They're saying it's racist if you don't want to have England absorbed, all these countries, the private bankers that created the crisis. And, of course, you're like, what does that have to do with race? They're like, that's because you're racist. You don't understand. Give mega banks your pension, or you don't like, well, if you're black, you don't like whites, or if you're white, you don't like blacks. Just don't be racist. And the average yuppie craps their pants, literally, and says, I give up all my rights, okay? You don't call me racist. They're like, throw your kid in an oven, or you're racist. Okay, in the oven. Give us government-run socialist health care, you're racist. Okay, slit wrist. I don't want to be racist. I mean, it is just total mind control programming. Okay, let's move away from the open establishment of world government that's going on right now, because everything's got to be fine here in the United States, right? I mean, we don't have a push towards the internet kill switch. Look at this article that we put out today. Paul Watson was smart enough to actually, when Google put out a report today, its openness report, he was smart enough to search under the takedown orders for the federal government, and we broke at prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com today that the federal government is now ordering YouTube, Google, and others to take down videos that are critical of the government. Here's the headline from today. Feds order YouTube to remove video for containing government criticism. That's a quote. U.S. authorities, not servants, authorities, bosses, masters, kings, rulers, lords. U.S. authorities hit Google with 70% rise in takedown orders, including videos critical of government. And it turns out we found cases where videos of protests were taken down. Just 2 weeks ago, the Federal Reserve put in a call to pull down one of our videos. YouTube hasn't done it, but sent us an email saying that it was before the YouTube Grand Committee. So there you have it. Government orders YouTube to censor protest videos. Isn't that just special? And, of course, the Senate committee has come out and said, hey, you get that internet kill switch. But now we learn it's a la carte. If it's government pushing censorship, it's okay. But don't worry. Google, which is really a government front, is getting in on the game. Google activates Android kill switch, zaps useless apps, in their words. It turns out it's apps that weren't approved by the Google mafia that you put on your own phone. You think you go pay for a phone and now you get an app on it. Sorry, it's an NSA Google app, and you don't get that. And of course, that means they're surveilling you, which they admit. Now, continuing here, we first broke this news back when we happened to be sent by listeners by his engineer inside. The fact that body scanners have a massive failure rate. They don't detect really anything. That's why they do the pat-downs after. But again, it's all about just massive profits for the company Chertoff works for. He, as the head of Homeland Security, Michael Chertoff, ordered these, and the company he now works for made billions, and then a year later, he's working for them making money. Somebody needs to protest that company, sue that company, whatever the case is. It's incredible. Now, speaking of sources, this next story, after we get off the body scanners, deals with streetlights all over the United States. I remember being sent by listeners in '98 saying, did you see Kay Belly Hutchinson's pork barrel where she got these big federal grants to put microphones up in Austin? I mean, look, Austin has these all over the city. Most big cities do. But now more and more companies are getting on the bandwagon where every street light will be controlled by Homeland Security and have loudspeakers to make announcements and boss you around, like the telescreens going in Walmarts and 9,000 other locations, bossing you around to spy on your neighbors. But now the new development in all of this is that one company was promoting it. Paul Watson wrote a story about it this morning, and they pulled their own video, not wanting you to see it. But people had already copied it all over YouTube. But here's a short snippet where they talk about the Homeland Security applications of streetlights that look normal, but are actually grabbing wireless data, recording everybody audio-wise, and videotaping you beyond Big Brother in 1984. What would have Big Brother done with this? Here's a clip.
Available in a variety of architectural styles and accompanied by a robust platform of digital wireless solutions, IntelliStreets also enables a myriad of homeland security features.
So we're all safer. Kind of like that Homeland Security grant, where Homeland Security actually signed off on it and said put it into the trial period for taser bracelets. Homeland Security actually green-lighted until we wrote about it, and it made national news a few years ago, to beta test everyone when you get to the airport. You don't just get your genitals grabbed or put in a microwave oven or have some bossy pot-bellied Nelly that wants to grab your genitals, tell you how great everything is. No, you get to also have them put a taser bracelet on you, so everyone's safe. Again, you're not watching The Outer Limits or Twilight Zone. This ain't the 60s. This is 2011. It's here. It's here, ladies and gentlemen. That was a colloquialism. I know ain't isn't proper English, but we're not into using proper imperial here. We talk how we want. You understand that? Good. I'm glad you do. Now, continuing, there's a big report out at Infowars.com that links to new government admissions that cell phone towers and EMR are damaging the biological systems of birds, insects, and humans. Of course, thousands of studies have been put out by corporations and governments. Back in the 1980s, when they proliferated wireless technology, they knew that in studies with rats who were exposed to it, it increased cancer. And now there's new studies out from a host of different sources reporting that cell phone towers and EMR damage biological systems of birds, insects, and humans. And I talked to people that are involved in farming, people that are involved in the production of insects that are used in other pest control, that insect numbers are way down. But I also remember driving across the country when I was a kid, and the whole front of the car was covered with bugs. Now I go on road trips. Everybody talks about less birds, less animals, less insects, and less honeybees. That's actually been researched and documented. In the West, everywhere GMO is engaged in and cell phones are prolific, you've got about 60 to 70% less honeybees. So the curse, the death of the earth is accelerating, and the people doing it by design have got everybody worried about carbon dioxide that plants breathe instead of all these other things that are happening. We're going to cover that more coming up in a moment. Now, I want to get to the emergency alert system because Glenn Beck, who is probably the third largest radio show in the country, reaching about 10 million people a week, he came out and told broadcasters they could be concerned. The full rant is up at Infowars.com in this article that we posted. And we give credit where credit is due. We like to see Beck going in the right direction. Beck talked about, all we know is the government is wired in systems that take over radio and TV at the transmitter site by federal regulations. And he said that they're going to be taking it over, and it's terrible, but we don't know the full story. Well, Beck, we do know the true story. 14 years ago, in 1997, I documented it. We're going to show a clip of that, because I talked to the engineers involved then, both in government and at the radio stations, about the plan. And I documented it again many times since, and earlier this year in February. So we're going to play the Glenn Beck clip now. Then we're going to go to clips from a video I shot in February and a film I put out about a year and a half ago, Police State for the Rise of FEMA, because it's a lot worse, Glenn. They've announced they're going to be taking over cell phones and with forced messages, big jumbotron screens, even if you don't want to watch TV. If you want to go get food at the grocery store, you want to go anywhere, you're going to be bombarded by Homeland Security saying terrorists are under every table, government loves you, take your shots. I mean, this is an insertion into the matrix where we're bombarded by the brainwashing. Let's go to Beck. The blind pig finding an acorn. He's not a blind pig.
Now, I understand that the EAS system is new and exciting and something brought to you by Homeland Security under the George Bush administration. Have a problem with the EAS system. One of the reasons I have a problem with it is because it seizes control of the broadcast frequency. If I don't trip the EAS system, the station is tripped for me. It's automatic. In the middle of my sentence, if the state wants to take control, they just take it.
Well, good job, Glenn. Rachel Maddow criticizing Obama for continuing torture. That's a blind hog finding an acorn. Beck does a lot of good work. That's why he was run out of Fox. So